Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the California Department of Motor Vehicles CDL Handbook Audio Edition. In this section will be 9.4 through 9.6 on the hazmat vehicles. And the best way to learn is to listen. We begin this hazmat section, 9.4, with loading and unloading. Do all you can to protect containers of hazardous materials. Do not use any tools which might damage containers or other packaging during loading, and do not use hooks. Now, general loading requirements. Before loading or unloading, set the parking brake. Make sure the vehicle will not move. Many products become more hazardous when exposed to heat. Load hazardous materials away from heat sources. Watch for signs of leaking or damaged containers. Leaks spell trouble. Do not transport leaking packages. Depending on the material, you, your truck, and others could be in danger, and it is illegal to move a vehicle with leaking hazardous materials. Containers of hazardous materials must be braced to prevent movement of the packages during transportation. No smoking. When loading or unloading hazardous materials, keep away. Do not let people nearby smoke. Never smoke around Class 1 explosives, Class 2.1 flammable gas, Class 3 flammable liquids, Class 4 flammable solids, or Class 5 oxidizers. Secure against movement. Brace containers so they will not fall, slide, or bounce around during transportation. Be very careful when loading containers that have valves or other fittings. All hazardous material packages must be secured during transportation. After loading, do not open any package during your trip. Never transfer hazardous materials from one package to another while in transit. You may empty a cargo tank, but do not empty any other package while it's on the vehicle. Cargo heater rules. There are special cargo heater rules for loading Class 1 explosives, Class 2 flammable gas, Class 3 flammable liquids. The rules usually forbid use of cargo heaters, including automatic cargo heater air conditioner units. Unless you have read all the related rules, do not load the product in a cargo space that has a heater. Use closed cargo space. You cannot have overhang or tailgate loads of Class 1, Class 4, or Class 5. You must load these hazard materials into a closed cargo space unless all packages are fire and water resistant, covered with a fire and water resistant tarp. Precautions for specific hazards. Class 1 explosive materials. Turn your engine off before loading or unloading any explosives. Then check the cargo space. You must disable cargo heaters, disconnect heater power sources, and drain heater fuel tanks. You must make sure there are no sharp points that might damage cargo. Look for bolts, screws, nails, broken side panels, and broken floorboards. You must use a floor lining with Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives. The floors must be tight, and the liner must be either non-metallic material or non-ferrous metal, which are non-ferrous metals are any metal that does not contain iron or iron alloys. Use extra care to protect explosives. Never use hooks or other metal tools. Never drop, throw, or roll packages. Protect explosive packages from other cargo that might cause damage. Do not transfer a Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosive from one vehicle to another on a public roadway except in emergency. It is safety requires an emergency transfer. Set out red warning reflector flags or electric lanterns. You must warn others on the road. Never transport damaged explosives. Do not accept a package that shows any dampness or oily stains. Do not transport Division 1.1 or 1.2 explosives in vehicle combinations if there is a marked or placarded cargo tank in the combination, or the other vehicles in the combination contains Division 1.1A, packages of Class C, radioactive, Division 2.3 poisonous gas, or Division 6.1 poisonous material, or hazardous materials in a portable tank on a DOT specific 106A or 110A tank. Okay. Class C, flammable solids, and Class 5, oxidizer materials. Now, Class 4 materials are solids that react, including fire and explosion. Now, they're solids that react heat and air, or even react spontaneously. Class 4 and Class 5 materials must be completely enclosed in a vehicle or covered securely. Class 4 and 5 materials which become unstable and dangerous when wet must be kept dry while in transit and during loading and unloading. Materials that are subject to spontaneous combustion or heating must be in vehicles with sufficient ventilation. Class 8. Corrosive materials. If loading by hand, load breakable containers or corrosive liquid one by one. Keep them right side up. Do not drop or roll the containers. Load them into an even floor surface. Stack carboys only if the lower tiers can bear the weight of the upper tiers safely. Do not load nitric acid above any other product. Load charged storage batteries so their liquid will not spill. Keep them right side up. Make sure other cargo will not fall against or short circuit them. Never load corrosive liquids next to or above Division 1.4 explosives, Division 4.1 flammable solids, Division 4.3 dangerous when wet, Class 5 oxidizers, Division 2.3 Zone B poisonous gases, and never load corrosive liquids with Division 1.1 or 1.2, Division 1.2 or 1.3, Division 1.5 blasting agents, Division 2.3 Zone A poisonous gases, Division 4.2 spontaneous combustible materials, Division 6.1 PGI Zone A poisonous liquids. Okay, Class 2 compressed gases, including cryogenic liquids. Now, if your vehicle does not have racks to hold cylinders, the cargo space floor must be flat. The cylinders must be held upright in racks attached to the vehicle or in boxes that will keep them from turning over. Cylinders may be loaded in a horizontal position, which is lying down, if it is designed so the relief valve is in the vapor space. Now, Division 2.3 poisonous gas or Division 6.1 poisonous material. Never transport these materials in containers with interconnections. Never load a package labeled poisonous or poisonous inhalation hazard in the driver's cab or sleeper or with food material for human consumption. Now, there are special rules for loading and unloading Class 2 materials in cargo tanks. You must have special training to do this. Class 7. Radioactive materials. Some packages of Class 7 radioactive materials bear a number called the Transport Index. The shipper's labels these packages Radioactive 2 or Radioactive 3 and prints the package Transport Index on the label. Radiation surrounds each package, passing through all nearby packages. To deal with this problem, the number of packages you can load together is controlled. Their closeness to people, animals, and unexposed film is also controlled. The Transport Index tells the degree of control needed during transportation. The total Transport Index of all packages in a single vehicle must not exceed 50. Now, in Table A in this section shows rules for each Transport Index. It shows how close you can load Class 7 radioactive materials to people, animals, or film. For example, you cannot leave a package with a Transport Index of 1.1 within 2 feet of people or cargo space walls. Mixed loads. The rules require some products to be loaded separately. You cannot load them together in the same cargo space. Figure 9.9 lists some examples. The regulations name other materials you must keep apart. Here's Figure 9.9 on your screen. Now it's time to test your knowledge. I'll ask you a few questions. You should know the answer in your mind. If not, please re-listen to this first part of this video. Question 1. Around which hazard classes must never use smoke? Number 2. Which 3 hazard classes should not be loaded into a trailer that has a heater or air conditioner unit? Number 3. Should the floor liner required for Division 1.1 or 1.2 materials be stainless steel? Number 4. At the shipper's dock, you are given a paper for 100 cartons of battery acid. You already have 100 pounds of dry silver cyanide on board. What precautions do you have to take? Number 5. Name a hazard class that uses transport indexes to determine the amount that can be loaded in a single vehicle. Now remember, these questions may be on your DMV test. If you cannot answer them, re-listen to this video or see my video on the test questions and answers. 9.5. Bulk packaging markings, loading and unloading. The glossary at the end of this section gives the meaning of the word bulk. Cargo tanks are bulk packaging permanently attached to the vehicle. Cargo tanks remain on the vehicle when you load and unload them. Portable tanks are bulk packaging, which are not permanently attached to a vehicle. The product is loaded or unloaded while the portable tanks are off the vehicle. Portable tanks are then put on a vehicle for transportation. There are many types of cargo tanks in use. The most common cargo tank are MC306 for liquids and MC331 for gases. Markings. You must display the ID number of the hazardous material in the portable tanks and cargo tanks and other bulk packaging. ID numbers are in column 4 of the hazardous materials table. The rules require black 100 mm numbers on the orange panels, placards, or a white diamond-shaped background if no placards are required. Specification cargo tanks must show reset date markings. Portable tanks must show the lessee or owner's name. They must also display the shipping name of the contents of the two opposing sides. The letters of the shipping name must be at least 2 inches tall on portable tanks with capacities of more than 1,000 gallons and 1 inch tall on portable tanks with capacities of less than 1,000 gallons. The ID number must appear on each side and end of the portable tank or other bulk packaging that holds 1,000 gallons or more, and on 2 opposing sides if the portable tank holds less than 1,000 gallons. The ID numbers must still be visible when the portable tank is on the motor vehicle. If they are not visible, you must display the ID number on both sides and the ends of the motor vehicle. Intermediate bulk containers, or IBCs, are bulk packaging, but are not required to have the owner's name or shipping name. Tank loading. Tank loading. The person in charge of loading and unloading a cargo tank must be sure a qualified person is always watching. This person watching the loading or unloading must be alert, have a clear view of the cargo tank, be within 25 feet of the tank. This person must know the hazards of the material involved, know the procedures to follow in an emergency, and must be authorized to move the cargo tank and able to do so. There are special attendance rules for cargo tanks transporting propane and anhydrous ammonia. Close all manholes and valves before moving a tank of hazardous materials, no matter how small the amount in the tank or how short the distance. Manholes and valves must be closed to prevent leaks. It is illegal to move a cargo tank with an open valve or covers unless it is empty according to CFR Title 49 173.29. Flammable liquids. Turn off your engine before loading or unloading any flammable liquids. Only run the engine if needed to operate a pump. Ground a cargo tank correctly before filling it through an open filling hole. Ground the tank before opening the filling hole and maintain the ground until after closing the filling hole. Alright, compressed gas. Keep liquid discharge valves on a compressed gas tank closed except when loading and unloading. Unless your engine runs a pump for product transfer, turn it off when loading or unloading. If you use the engine, turn it off after transferring and before you unhook the hose. Unhook all loading and unloading connections before coupling, uncoupling, or moving a cargo tank. Always chalk trailers and semi-trailers to prevent motion when uncoupling from the power unit. It's time to test your knowledge. You know the routine. Question number 1. What are cargo tanks? Number 2. How is a portable tank different from a cargo tank? Number 3. Your engine runs a pump used during delivery or compressed gas. Should you turn off the engine before or after unhooking hoses after delivery? Now these questions may be on your test. If you can answer them, listen to my video on the test questions and answers. Okay, hazardous materials, driving, and parking rules. Parking with Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives. Let's talk about that first. Never park with Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives within 5 feet of the traveled part of the road, except for short periods of time needed for vehicle operation necessities like fueling. And do not park within 300 feet of a building, bridge, or tunnel, 300 feet of a place where people gather, or do not park within 300 feet of an open fire. If you must park to do your job, do it only briefly. Do not park on private property unless the owner is aware of the danger. Someone must always watch the parked vehicle. You may let someone else watch it for only if the vehicle is on the shipper's property, on the carrier's property, or on the consignee's property. You are allowed to leave your vehicle unattended in a safe haven. Now, a safe haven is an approved place for parking unattended vehicles loaded with explosives. Designation of authorized safe havens is usually made by local authorities. Parking a placarded vehicle not transporting Division 1.1, 1.23 explosives. Now, you may park a placarded vehicle within 5 feet of the traveled part of the road only if your work requires it. Do so only briefly. Someone must always watch the vehicle when parked on a public roadway or shoulder. Do not uncouple a trailer and leave it with hazardous materials on a public street. Do not park within 300 feet of an open fire. Attending placarded parked vehicles. The person attending a placarded vehicle must be in the vehicle, awake, and not in the sleeper berth, or within 100 feet of the vehicle and have it within clear view. The person must be aware of hazards of the material being transported. The person must know what to do in case of an emergency, and the person must be able to move the vehicle if necessary. No flares. You might break down and have to stop vehicles. Use reflective triangles or red electric lights. Never use burning signals such as flares or fuses around a tank used for Class 3 flammable liquids or Division 2.1 flammable gas, whether or not it's loaded or empty. You cannot use a flame or spark near a vehicle loaded with Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives. Let's talk about route restrictions. Some states and counties require permits to transport hazardous materials or waste. They may limit the routes you can use, and local rules about routes and permits change often. It is your job as a driver to find out if you need permits or must use special routes. Make sure you have all needed papers before starting. If you work for a carrier, ask your dispatcher about route restrictions or permits. If you are an independent trucker and are planning a new route, check the state agencies where you plan to travel. Some localities prohibit transportation of hazardous materials through tunnels, over bridges, or other roadways. Always check before you start. And whenever placarded, avoid heavily populated areas, crowds, tunnels, narrow streets, and alleys. Take other routes, even if inconvenient, unless there is no other way. Never drive a placarded vehicle near open fires unless you can safely pass without stopping. Now, if transporting Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives, you must have a written route plan and follow that plan. Carriers prepare the route plan in advance and give the driver a copy. You may plan the route yourself if you pick up the explosives at a location other than your employer's terminal. Write out the plan in advance. Keep a copy of it with you while you transport the explosives. Deliver shipments of explosives only to authorized persons or leave them in locked rooms designed for explosive storage. A carrier must choose the safest route to transport placarded radioactive materials. After choosing the route, the carrier must tell the driver about the radioactive materials and show the route plan. Now, transporting explosives in California. When transporting any amount of Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3, or 1.6 explosives, or combination of any of the explosives together with Division 1.5 explosives, as a delivery service for hire, you must use special routes, safe stopping places, safe parking places, and mandatory vehicle inspection locations prescribed by the CHP. And when transporting more than 1,000 pounds of this explosive in private carriage, the same requirements apply. Transporting inhalation hazards in California. Shipments of materials designed as poisonous inhalation hazard, toxic inhalation hazard, or inhalation hazard, when transported in bulk packages, must also be transported using special routes, safe stopping places, and mandatory vehicle inspection locations prescribed by the CHP for these materials. Now, transporting radioactive materials in California. There are also special routes prescribed by CHP for highway route controlled quantity and radioactive material shipments. Drivers must have in their possession a copy of the route supplied by the carrier applicable to their shipment when transporting these materials. The routes, stopping places, and inspection locations are contained in CCR Title 13, 1150, 1152.8. Now, these requirements are also published by the CHP. Motor carriers may receive these publications, including revisions, by indicating their request on the application for hazardous materials transportation license or by contacting the Commercial Vehicle Section Routing Coordinator at 916-327-3310. California General Hazardous Materials Routing Requirement. The following general routing and parking restrictions apply to hazardous material and waste shipments for which the display of vehicle placards or markings is required, per CVC 27903, except shipments to and in conformance with special routing and related requirements. Unless specifically restricted or prohibited, use state or interstate highways which offer the least transit time whenever possible. Avoid, whenever practicable, congested highways, places where crowds are assembled, and resident districts. Avoid, whenever possible, deviation from designated routes is not excusable on the basis of operating convenience. Do not leave a loaded vehicle unattended or parked overnight in a residential district. Except for specifically restricted or prohibited highways, other highways may be used that provide necessary access for pickup or delivery consistent with safe vehicle operation. Highways which provide reasonable access to fuel, repairs, rest, or food facilities that are designed to and intended for commercial vehicle parking when that access is safe and when the facility is within a half a mile of the points of exit and entry of the designated route. Restricted or prohibited routes may only be used when no other lawful alternative exists. CHP also publishes a list of restricted or prohibited highways. Copies of this may be obtained by contacting the Commercial Vehicle Section Routing Coordinator at the previous phone number. No smoking. Do not smoke within 25 feet of a placarded cargo tank used for Class 3 or Division 2.1 gases. Also, do not carry or smoke a lighted cigarette, cigar, or pipe within 25 feet of any vehicle which contains Class 1 explosives, Class 3 flammable liquids, Class 4 flammable solids, Class 4.2 spontaneous combustibles. Refuel with your engine off. Turn off your engine before fueling a motor vehicle containing hazardous materials. Someone must always be at the nozzle controlling the fuel flow. Fire extinguisher. The power unit of placarded vehicles must have a fire extinguisher with an Underwriters Laboratories rating of 10 B, C, or more. Check your tires. Make sure your tires are properly inflated. You must examine each tire on a motor vehicle at the beginning of each trip and each time the vehicle is parked. The only acceptable way to check tire pressure is to use a tire pressure gauge. Do not drive with a tire that is leaking or flat except the nearest safe place to get it fixed. Remove any overheated tire. Place it at a safe distance from your vehicle. Do not drive until you correct the cause of the overheating. Remember to follow the rules about parking and unattended placarded vehicles. They apply even when checking, repairing, or replacing your tires. Where to keep your shipping papers and emergency response information. Do not accept a hazardous material shipment without a properly prepared shipping paper. A shipping paper for hazardous materials must always be easily recognized. Other people must be able to find it quickly after an accident. Clearly distinguish hazardous material shipping papers from others by tabbing them or keeping them on top of your stack of papers. When you are behind the wheel, keep shipping papers within your reach, with your seatbelt on, or in a pouch in the driver's door. They must be easily seen by someone entering the cab. When not behind the wheel, leave shipping papers in the driver's door pouch or on the driver's seat. Emergency response information must be kept in the same location as the shipping paper. Papers for Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives. A carrier must give each driver transporting Division 1.1, 1.2, or 1.3 explosives a copy of the FMCSR Part 397. The carrier must also give written instructions on what to do if delayed or in an accident. The written instructions must include the names and telephone numbers of people to contact, the nature of the explosives transported, the precautions to make in emergencies such as fires, accidents, or leaks. Note: the driver must sign a receipt for these documents. You must be familiar with and have in your possession while driving the shipping papers, the written emergency instructions, the written route plan, and a copy of the FMCSR Part 397. Equipment for chlorine. A driver transporting chlorine in cargo tanks must have an approved gas mask in the vehicle. The driver must also have an emergency kit for controlled leaks in dome-covered plate fittings on the cargo tank. Stop before railroad crossings. Stop before a railroad crossing if your vehicle is placarded, carries an amount of chlorine, has cargo tanks, whether loaded or empty, used for hazardous materials. You must stop 15 to 50 feet before the nearest rail. Proceed only when you are sure no train is coming and you can clear the tracks without stopping. Do not shift gears while crossing the tracks. Congratulations, you've completed Section 9.6. In the next video, we'll continue with Section 9.7. Just listen to these videos a few times, then go in and take your test, and you'll pass it with no problem.